When we talk about overcoming negative feelings, one of the first truths we must recognize is that everything in life is filtered through perception. Nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, holds meaning until we give it meaning. You see, an event in itself is neutral. It simply exists. A person may speak words, circumstances may unfold, challenges may appear, but they carry no weight until our mind decides how to interpret them. If you and I were standing side by side and the same event occurred before our eyes, we could walk away with two completely different experiences, simply because the lenses we used to view it were not the same. That is the power of perception. It creates the story we tell ourselves, and that story decides whether we live in a state of peace or in a state of turmoil. When someone says a negative feeling has taken over them, what they are truly saying is that their perception has attached itself to lack, to fear, to limitation. It is not the situation that is holding them captive. It is the angle from which they are viewing it. Imagine a window with colored glass. If the glass is tinted red, everything outside looks red. If the glass is tinted blue, suddenly the same world looks blue. Nothing outside has changed. Only the filter you are looking through has changed. Our mind works the exact same way. Negative feelings are nothing more than a red, tinted filter. When we realize this, when we pause and step back, we start to see that perception can be shifted. And with that shift, the negative feelings lose their grip. Think for a moment about times in your life when something seemed unbearable, but later, with time and distance, you looked back and thought, that wasn't as bad as I believed it was. Or even, that was a blessing in disguise. What happened there? The event didn't change. Your perception of it changed. You gained a new vantage point, perhaps more wisdom, and from that angle the same situation held different meaning. That is evidence that perception is not fixed. It is fluid, and it is within your control. Negative feelings often thrive because people believe their perception is reality. They forget that perception is simply an interpretation. If a person feels rejected, it is not the action of another that hurts the most, but the interpretation. I am not enough. I am unloved. I am unworthy. Those interpretations create pain. But imagine changing the perception. This experience is redirecting me towards something greater. Or, this rejection is proof that I am being guided to where I truly belong. With that new story, the negative feelings dissolve and a sense of hope emerges. The outer world hasn't shifted, yet the inner world feels entirely different. Perception is the birthplace of either suffering or freedom. When someone lives in negative feelings, they are choosing, often unconsciously, to interpret life in a way that traps them. For example, let's say you were given the role of being someone's partner for a day, just for one day, in a circumstance that felt both surreal and temporary. Some might walk away feeling used, discarded, or empty because their perception locks onto loss and finality. But another person, with a different perception, might walk away empowered, thinking, I had the privilege to experience something extraordinary, even if only briefly. I was chosen, even if only for a moment. That experience showed me what I am worthy of, and it is proof that more is possible for me. Notice the difference. The same external event, yet one perception leaves a person with heaviness and despair, while the other creates gratitude and possibility. When you begin to understand that your mind is the architect of meaning, you realize that negative feelings are not fixed chains, but shadows that can be dissolved with light. And the light is perception. Most people look at circumstances and believe they are powerless. They say, this is just how it is. But perception is not about denying reality. It is about choosing the angle that serves you rather than harms you. A storm outside is a storm, but through one lens it is destruction, and through another it is renewal. Rain falling can be a nuisance to one person who sees only inconvenience. Yet to another it is life, giving water that nourishes crops and quenches the earth. Nothing changed but the perspective. This is why two people can live in the same household, grow up in the same family, experience the same trials, and yet one carries bitterness for years, while the other radiates resilience and joy. The difference is never the events. It is always perception. And perception is a choice, though most people make it unconsciously. The moment you take control of how you choose to view things, you take control of the emotional state that follows. Negative feelings cannot dominate a mind that decides to perceive with empowerment, gratitude, or curiosity. Think about how often people carry the weight of an insult, a rejection, a loss. They replay it, they repeat it, and every replay strengthens the negative feeling. What are they doing? They are feeding a particular perception over and over. But if they shifted the lens, if they found a new meaning, the emotional weight would no longer be heavy. It could even become uplifting. The person who once felt abandoned might now see themselves as free to create a new chapter. The one who lost an opportunity might perceive it as protection from a path that wasn't aligned with their higher purpose. The one who faced criticism might interpret it as proof they are stepping into visibility and growth. In every single instance, perception transforms pain into power. There is a strange beauty in things that do not last forever. Human beings often crave permanence, but life teaches us that some of the most powerful lessons come wrapped in moments that are temporary. When you think about an experience that lasted only for a day, or even a few hours, you might at first feel it was insignificant. But the truth is that even temporary roles can leave behind permanent lessons. Imagine being placed in a situation where, for just one day, you are given a role that is far greater than what you believed you could hold. A role that shifts your identity, even if only briefly. In those moments, the mind expands, and once it expands, it can never shrink back to its old size. Think about someone who is suddenly placed in the position of being deeply valued, admired, and treated with great care for a single day. On the surface, it might appear fleeting, but beneath the surface, something extraordinary is happening. The heart begins to recognize what it feels like to be chosen. The mind records the sensation of being enough. And though the day may pass, the memory remains imprinted, and with it comes a powerful lesson about worthiness, about possibility, about the fact that life can shift in an instant. That short-lived role becomes a mirror, reflecting back an image of what is possible for you to embody permanently, if only you allow yourself to believe it. People often dismiss temporary experiences as unimportant, but they underestimate the human mind's ability to attach meaning. A person may work a job for a single week, but that week could teach them more about resilience, discipline, or self-respect than years in another role. A conversation lasting 10 minutes could alter the trajectory of someone's future because of a single sentence that reshapes their thinking. A relationship that blooms and fades quickly might awaken someone to the realization that they are capable of feeling love and being loved, which is something no amount of loneliness can ever erase. In each of these cases, the role itself was temporary, but the lesson it left behind is everlasting. This is why we must learn to value the temporary. The mind that resists impermanence often clings to pain, repeating thoughts like, "Why didn't it last? Why was it taken away? Why couldn't it continue?" But that perception blinds us to the treasure that was placed in our hands. To be given even a taste of what we desire is proof that it exists and that it can be ours again in new forms. When we change how we look at temporary roles, we stop seeing them as endings and start seeing them as beginnings. They become seeds planted in the soil of our subconscious, seeds that will grow into new opportunities, new identities, and new realities. Temporary roles are like doors that briefly open to show us what lies on the other side. Imagine standing in a dark hallway, unsure of what is possible for you, and suddenly, for one day, a door opens, flooding you with light and revealing a world you never thought you could step into. The door may close again, but now you know that world exists. That knowledge alone changes the way you walk through the hallway. You no longer walk with your head down, feeling small or unseen. You walk knowing that something greater is out there, and that you have already touched it, if only for a moment. This awareness shifts your entire vibration, and people around you begin to sense it. Opportunities that once seemed unreachable start to feel attainable, because you now carry evidence, however temporary, that you are capable of holding more. When you are given the role of something extraordinary, even for just a day, you are not meant to cling to the day itself. You are meant to absorb the essence of it. It is the essence that remains, not the physical form. For example, if someone lived as a partner to a wealthy man for a single day, she may have felt emotions of being valued, respected, and cherished. That day may pass, but what remains is the embodied memory of what those feelings were like. From that moment on, she can no longer convince herself that she is unworthy of love or undeserving of abundance, because she has already lived it. Even for a short time, she carried that role, and now it belongs to her story forever. This is the permanent lesson, hidden inside the temporary role. It is important to recognize that these moments are not accidents. Life does not place you in extraordinary roles just to tease you, or to show you what you cannot have. Life offers them as glimpses of what you are capable of creating permanently, if you are willing to grow into it. The temporary role is like a rehearsal. It prepares you, shows you the stage, allows you to feel the energy, and then invites you to make it real in your own way. You may walk away from the moment with a sense of loss, but if you shift your perception, you will see that you were not losing anything. You were being initiated into a greater awareness of yourself. Even pain that follows temporary roles carries lessons. You may feel sadness when something beautiful ends, but that sadness itself is proof of the depth with which you experienced it. Without that temporary experience, you would never know the full range of emotions that you are capable of. And that depth, once discovered, stays with you forever. It makes you stronger, more compassionate, and more alive. This is why people who have loved deeply, even for a short time, carry a glow within them that cannot be hidden. Their experience may not have lasted long, but it left behind wisdom that continues to shape their choices, their mindset, and their destiny. Every negative feeling that rises within us has an opposite positive one waiting to take its place. Fear has love, doubt has faith, sadness has gratitude, anger has understanding, and confusion has clarity. These pairs exist in the same way light and shadow exist together. The shadow cannot exist without the presence of light, and negative feelings cannot exist without the possibility of a positive counterpart. The challenge most people face is that they allow themselves to become consumed by one side of the spectrum, forgetting that the other side is always available to them if they choose to shift their focus. Fear is one of the strongest negative emotions, and it often disguises itself as protection. People cling to fear because they believe it keeps them safe, but in truth it locks them inside a cage where growth and expansion cannot exist. Love, however, is the energy that dissolves fear. Love is not limited to romance or relationships. It is a state of being, a vibration that allows us to see beyond danger and into possibility. When you choose love over fear, you are not denying that challenges exist, you are deciding that challenges will not shrink you. Love enlarges you. It allows you to see solutions where fear sees obstacles, to notice opportunities where fear notices only threats. Doubt is another weight that holds people back. When you are caught in doubt, your mind begins to spin stories about inadequacy. I can't do this. I'm not good enough. It won't work out. Doubt closes the door before you even attempt to step through it. But faith is the counterbalance. Faith whispers, even if I don't see the entire path, I trust that the ground will meet my feet as I walk forward. Faith is not blind. It is a choice to believe in the unseen while you move toward it. Every invention, every achievement, every breakthrough in history was born from faith. The Wright brothers had no evidence that humans could fly, but faith guided their steps. People who overcame impossible odds did so because faith outweighed doubt. When you choose faith, you replace hesitation with movement, and movement always leads to momentum. Sadness often comes when we focus on what is missing, what is lost, or what we believe will never return. The heart feels heavy under the weight of lack. Gratitude, however, transforms sadness instantly. Gratitude does not erase the pain of loss, but it reframes it by focusing on the richness of what was experienced. When someone says, I lost this, and it breaks me, they are seeing only absence. But when they say, I was fortunate to experience this, even if for a short while, they are shifting into gratitude. Gratitude reminds the heart that life gave us something to cherish, and the memory of it remains a gift. Gratitude is not about pretending pain does not exist. It is about choosing to see the beauty that accompanied it. This shift lightens sadness because appreciation expands the heart while sorrow shrinks it. Anger is another negative feeling that consumes energy. Anger arises when expectations are not met, when we feel disrespected, betrayed, or powerless. But the opposite of anger is understanding. To understand does not mean to excuse harmful behavior, but it means to see beyond the surface. When someone hurts you, anger shouts, they wanted to destroy me. While understanding whispers, they acted from their own pain, their own wounds, their own blindness. This perspective removes the poison from anger and replaces it with clarity. When you understand, you reclaim your power because you are no longer bound by the emotions of another. Understanding is the bridge that allows you to rise above hostility and see truth without distortion. Confusion is another state where negative feelings thrive. The mind feels scattered, uncertain, and unable to choose a path, but clarity is always available when we decide to step out of the noise. Clarity comes when we pause, breathe, and ask ourselves what really matters. It comes when we trust that answers are not found in frantic searching but in stillness. Confusion binds you because you believe you must know everything now, but clarity assures you that each step will reveal the next. Choosing clarity over confusion means trusting simplicity instead of being trapped in chaos. When you examine all these pairs, you begin to realize that negative feelings are not permanent enemies. They are invitations. Fear invites you to step into love. Doubt invites you to choose faith. Sadness invites you to awaken gratitude. Anger invites you to practice understanding. Confusion invites you to cultivate clarity. Without these invitations, you would never discover the depth of your ability to shift your inner state. Negative feelings, then, are not punishments but signals pointing you toward a higher way of being. The real power lies in choice. Every moment, you stand at a crossroads between love and fear, between faith and doubt, between gratitude and sadness. The external world cannot make this choice for you. It is entirely yours. People often wait for circumstances to change before they allow themselves to feel better. But true transformation comes when you decide to feel better first. By choosing the higher emotion, you change your vibration, and when your vibration changes, circumstances begin to align with it. That is why some people seem to attract more love, more abundance, more peace. They are consciously choosing the positive counterpart to whatever negative feeling arises. This is not to say the negative feelings will never show up. They will. They are part of the human experience. But the moment you recognize them, you also recognize that the opposite is within reach. Instead of drowning in fear, you can say, "This is a chance to practice love." Instead of collapsing under doubt, you can affirm, "This is my moment to exercise faith." Instead of spiraling into sadness, you can whisper, "I am grateful for what I had." Each time you make this choice, you strengthen the positive side, and over time it becomes more natural to live in that state. Every person carries a story, and that story is the fabric of their life. For some, the story is filled with triumphs, victories, and blessings, but for many, the story includes pain, rejection, heartbreak, or failure. The instinct for most people is to hide the parts of their story that hurt, to bury them deep, to pretend they never happened. They believe that by hiding their wounds, they will appear stronger. But the truth is that the very parts they are hiding are the ones that hold the greatest potential for transformation. Your story does not weaken you. It is the source of your strength. What you went through, what you endured, what you survived, all of it has carved within you a resilience that no easy path could have ever given. When negative feelings overwhelm a person, it is usually because they are looking at their story through the lens of victimhood. They repeat to themselves, "This happened to me. This broke me. This ruined me." And the words they choose reinforce their suffering. But when that same story is viewed through the lens of empowerment, everything changes. The words become, "This happened for me. This shaped me. This prepared me." The event does not change. The meaning does. And with that shift, the pain transforms into purpose. Consider the individual who grew up in an environment where love was scarce, where every day was a battle just to feel seen. That person could choose to carry bitterness, to let their past define them as unworthy, and to live forever in the shadow of rejection. Or, they could choose to reframe their story. Because I know what it feels like to be unseen, I have the ability to give love in ways that others cannot. My story trained me to be compassionate, to recognize pain in others, and to create the very love I once longed for. The same childhood, the same events, but two entirely different destinies, based on how the story is told. Your story is not something to be ashamed of. It is something to be claimed. When you stand before others and speak from a place of authenticity, sharing not just the polished victories, but also the raw struggles, you create a connection deeper than anything else. People do not connect with perfection, they connect with truth. And your truth, with all its imperfections, is what makes you relatable, human, and powerful. The strength you carry today is proof that you have lived through storms and are still standing. That resilience is not theoretical. It is earned. There is an energy that comes from owning your story. It is the energy of alignment. When you stop running from your past, and instead embrace it as part of your becoming, you no longer waste energy on shame or secrecy. That energy is freed up and redirected toward growth, toward creation, toward building a future that honors where you came from. This is why people who once lived in pain often become the most inspiring leaders, healers, creators, and teachers. They discovered that their story was not a chain, but a key. A key that unlocked not only their own freedom, but the freedom of others who resonated with their journey. Think of every scar you carry, whether visible or invisible. A scar is not a mark of weakness. It is proof of healing. It means the wound closed, that your body and soul repaired themselves. The scar remains, yes, but it is not a symbol of brokenness, it is a symbol of strength. In the same way, every difficult chapter in your story remains in memory, but it does not define you as broken. It defines you as someone who healed, who overcame, who continued on. That perspective shifts the narrative from one of loss to one of triumph. Your story also serves as a roadmap for others. When someone hears that you too have walked through heartbreak, loss, or despair, and yet you stand in strength, it gives them permission to believe they can too. The story you once wished to erase becomes the very testimony that uplifts someone else. What you once thought was your curse becomes your contribution. In that moment, you realize that your life is not just about you. It is about everyone your story has the power to touch. The truth is, negative feelings only hold power when we believe our story has left us powerless. But when we shift into the understanding that our story is what forged our resilience, the negativity begins to dissolve. Anger turns into fuel, sadness turns into empathy, fear turns into courage. Every negative emotion that once controlled us becomes transmuted into strength when filtered through the lens of our story. Instead of being ashamed of where you came from, you stand proud, knowing that what you have been through has made you unshackable. Even in the moments when you feel broken, you can remind yourself that being broken is not the end. Broken pieces can be reassembled into something even more beautiful, just as shattered glass can be turned into a mosaic. Your story is that mosaic. Every piece, even the painful ones, contributes to the beauty of the whole. Without the cracks, the light would not shine through in the same way. Without the trials, your triumphs would not carry the same depth. Without the losses, your gratitude for what you gain would not be as profound.